continuous monitoring of the weather conditions and the weather forecast. So whenever we are forecasting, as it is possible to do with the current technology, sandstorms, thunderstorms of raining, we cannot avoid that, but we can be prepared to that. So depending on the certain levels of alarm, we deploy teams just to be prepared and, as I said, to minimize the effects of these weather conditions on our operations. And by the way, we have never had a train delayed because of sand accumulation. Never. We had the trains delayed because of water and thunders and so on, but not because of the sand.
Thank you so much, Mr. Armandino. I believe the International Union of Railway, UIC, does organize the World Congress in high-speed railway every 2 or 3 years. Mr. Bertrand, recently UIC organized the World Congress in high-speed railway in China, number 12. What are the main outcomes?
Thank you, Dr. Ahmad. Yes, for more than 15 years now, UIC is organizing the World Congress on High-Speed Rail, which is more or less the flagship event of UIC. So just brief word, UIC is a historical place for cooperation and technical innovation at the beginning in Europe, but now with more than 220 members, we are worldwide, as said our chairman before. We are doing cooperation, defining standards, defining solutions, defining common goals and common ways to do. And to do so, by the way, except our working groups while issuing international railway standards, we also organize events like this to share. So this year it's a biannual, so every 2 years, and this year it was in China, Beijing. We had more than 2,000 attendees, 30 ministers and deputy ministers, and more than 20 CEOs on board. What does it prove? Just for the figures, is that this event about high speed is not about technique. Yes, it was. We had 180 speakers explaining in different issues like maintenance, operation, customers, and whatever, but the main issue was the finance. And I mean, this is the most important thing. Now, I would be really simplistic. If you look at the map, all the countries that could finance by themselves their project are now equipped. So the challenge is how to do this in other countries where money is needed. And then it goes to what is the benefit of the high speed and more of the railways. So we have to attract finance, we have to attract to be green, and we are green, but we have to attract green finance. So this year it was about this, green finance, carbon credits, how we do this in our project, and then the models could be PPP with all the different variants, inside. So it was the main outcomes. And I would say that now we can feel that, we can be proud that our high-speed technology is not only a tool built by engineers for moving people, it's a tool to connect the countries. And this is very important. So this was the main outcome. And I think that the next one, taking place in 2027, maybe in Middle East, I hope so, will be the time to discuss about more this information. But of course, we raise also the innovation side and whatever, but we will go back on this one.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bertrand. In railway projects, digital signaling technology provides drivers with real-time information on speed and route conditions. Mr. Frank, how does your latest digital signaling technology like ETCS level 2 or 3 directly translate into better train capacity and overall safety for a brand new high-speed network?
This question relates a bit to the first question I got. ETS in itself is, I think, well known it offers more capacity, it offers more safety, it reduces the amount of field elements that you need. So all in all, it contributes a lot. When you say direct, it depends on will it be a dedicated network, dedicated line, or will it be mixed? And when it's an existing line, like for example the East-West line, where we have the ETCS level 1 in place, we have to upgrade it. And at the same time, you want to keep the shop open while it's being renovated. So adding immediate benefits on an existing line is a bit more difficult than having the functionality from ETCS level 2 in place on a new dedicated line. So that's without saying it's there as of day one.
Thank you so much, Mr. Frank. The HSR, or high-speed railway innovations, can be achieved accelerating the flow of talent, knowledge, and capital, which in turn drives economic growth and technological advancements. Mr. Russell, how can high-speed rail balance innovation, high quality, and efficient, affordable delivery in Saudi Arabia?
Thank you, Dr. Hamid. I mean, first of all, I will say that the Kingdom is already delivering and implementing on world-leading infrastructure ambitions. So it's, the platform is already there. But I do think there are lessons to learn from different parts of the world, and maybe not just in high-speed rail, but in other forms of rail, and also from other sectors. I think we can learn and we can innovate from other sectors. So just a couple of examples, right? And I think if I think of the Q Express, for example, I think these are really, really useful and interesting lessons for Q Express. First of all, if I look at Crossrail in the UK, it's absolutely a world-class project, super successful in terms of patronage. It takes 10% of all UK passengers. It won the Sterling Prize for architecture. It is absolutely very, very high quality, high-level project. But it was very, very expensive, and it took a long time. And I think one of the lessons learned there was a lot of innovation around technology, around new systems, and it became a project that was more complicated than nuclear power stations, right? The software complexities, as well as the civil engineering, the integration complexities. Look, I'm a civil engineer. If we want to measure and drive civil engineering projects, it's kind of easy to see progress on a civil engineering project, right? You go out there, you eyeball it, you can see how you're getting on. When it becomes a software project, that is a much, much more difficult type of project to measure progress. I think that is a big lesson from Crossrail, where they struggled with that, is bringing in new systems, in software. We've got to be very careful about how we implement those, right? But it's definitely achievable. We've got to be mindful of those lessons. The other project that I think is a really interesting one is in Florida, is Brightline, which is a new privately funded railway in Florida, in Miami, between Miami and Orlando. And the innovation that they brought was actually around the passenger experience. So they delivered a much more airline-type passenger experience in their stations and in the way that the ticketing and the train service. And that is a massively successful, game-changing project in a country, let's face it, where railways are not really there's not as much appetite for railway patronage in the US in many areas as there is in other regions. And I think there's a huge lesson there in how we bring the passenger experience from other sectors and how we apply that experience to stations and to the railway services that we have in Kingdom. I mean, I think it's really easy, right, to get any architect to give you an iconic station design, but only fantastic architects can give you an iconic and affordable and efficient station design that really speaks to the passenger experience. So I think there's a whole bunch of lessons and innovation that we can bring from other sectors to meet the ambitions of the Kingdom in their rail, in rail and in high-speed rail.
Thank you so much, Mr. Russell. Worldwide, the most immediate and viable business case for high-speed railway focuses in high-demand corridors that connect major cities, offering a competitive alternative to short-haul flights and addressing current rail congestions. Mr. Stephen, Where in Saudi Arabia do you see the most immediate and viable business case for the next high-speed rail corridor to be developed?
Thank you, Doctor. Beyond the existing, I guess, project we know are in the pipe, like Q Express, I think to answer that question, you need to look at where the business case intersects with the Saudi vision. And in that respect, the Central Eastern Corridor, the Riyadh-Dammam link, stands out as the immediate viable candidate. It connects dense population and economic centers. It would link governmental, economic, and industrial sites. It supports the land bridge integration, and it offers high, predictable ridership. And we know that ridership is basically the basis for success for HSR project. So that would be my first response. Beyond that, we have studied with SAR and the neighboring countries linking, Saudi to the neighbors, Kuwait, Qatar, UAE. And this makes sense because it's profiting from synergies on the economic, cultural, and tourism aspects. And it aligns with the vision of the kingdom to be the hub, regional hub for the Middle East. And those opportunities are there, and hope we'll see the realization path start soon. Longer term, we can think about a northern corridor linking, Alula, Neom, and obviously linking Jeddah, where Haramain is already there and serving very successfully the pilgrim population. So there's great success story in the kingdom on HSR already, and they need to emulate that, and hopefully we'll see that being realized soon.
Thank you so much. At the end of our panel, I would like to thank our speakers for their time and for sharing their expertise with us today. I also thank all of you for joining this session. Please feel free to speak with any of our speakers for further information. Thank you so much.
It was difficult.
Okay, brilliant. Well, thank you, everybody, for that very interesting panel. Hopefully you've learned a lot about the insights and innovations in high-speed rail. So I've got the pleasure now of introducing our next session. As we know, infrastructure is only as good as the people who build, operate, and maintain this infrastructure. So now we're going to hear a little bit about how we build the right skills and industry within Saudi.
can benefit from our support in terms of localizing industries, localizing capabilities, to make sure that we are ready when the time comes and an investor is actually interested in localizing in this industry. Again, the policies that we have in place are already implemented. We have two types of policies. One focuses on the government procurement specifically, and the other on state-owned enterprises. And based on that, we work with the private sector to, let's say, match the project with the proper local content policy in the tender. Thank you.
Thank you. One question, because Mr. Sultan, defining the policies is one thing, but then how do you make sure that those policies are actually implemented on the ground? How do you ensure that, the compliance?
The compliance? Okay. So we actually have a full dedicated team to go ahead and do proper checks for each and every RFP that is issued in the government sector. So we make sure that we review it. The clauses that relate to local content are actually there and in the right, let's say, format. And based on the specific requirements that we included in that RFP, the team actually ensures that the compliance is there in terms of RFP itself. After the tender process is done, we go ahead and do a compliance check with each and every single contract that goes out, and ensure that the tenderer that won is actually meeting the requirements. On top of that, we have annual reports that are submitted for the contracts that we embed our local content requirements in. Again, to make sure that nothing was missed in terms of execution. At the end of each and every contract, we have a final report that is submitted with every single requirement that was included, and how did this contractor do in terms of complying with them. And the same applies for the government entity and the state-owned enterprise that issued that tender and RFP.
Perfect. Maybe one last question to you, and then I promise I'll leave you alone. So the third question is on the, there's always a percentage of local content which is imposed, but it's usually a value. It's not really in terms of technicality, in terms of complexity. So we tend to localize what is easy to produce and not really the engineering-led type of activities. So how do you raise the bar with some policies, and is it part of what your organization is deploying?
Okay, this is a very good question because it's true that we focus on spend in terms of local content calculation, but not all spend is the same. So we have spend that is on R&D and engineering. We believe that has a more sustainable impact on the kingdom rather than high-level assembly. The way we do that is, again, we look at every contract and we identify the specific requirements within that contract. So any contract that is above a certain percentage comes to us at the transportation and logistics team. We review that contract specifically, and in light of the current capabilities in the market, in light of the nature of that project, we design the specific requirements to be included in that RFP. The local content calculation itself reflects the spend that remains in the kingdom, but it rewards specific types of spend. Namely, it rewards R&D spend. So any real that's spent in R&D is actually rewarded a 1.5 riyals in terms of local content calculation. The same applies for supplier development, which is basically working with suppliers to increase their local content, and the same applies for training Saudis. All of that is aimed to increasing the local content in these specific areas, which we believe are very sustainable. On top of that, we, as I said earlier, we take a proactive approach where we identify specific opportunities. One of these opportunities, something that we are currently working on, which is the localization of wheels manufacturing in Saudi. The manufacturing of wheels is very difficult in terms of a manufacturing facility. However, we are working with the buyers in the kingdom, be it government or state-owned enterprise, to allocate all of that demand into one bundle and actually issue an RFP from our side as local content and government procurement authority, whereby we contract with a private sector company to localize the manufacturing, the proper manufacturing of wheels in Saudi. In return, we will add that product to the mandatory list of national products, which will effectively mean any wheels that will be bought in the kingdom through government or SOEs is going to be bought from a local manufacturer, which is the one that we sign with in this case.
Thank you very much. Now I would like to ask Mr. Khalid from Sabatco. You know, there's a strong push for local content, to promote local companies. You are one of those local companies, but what I hear as well on the other side is it's not that easy. Sometimes it's a matter of scale. Those companies are not big enough. Sometimes it's a matter of expertise because they don't have prior experience. So based on your own experience, what are the challenges that you are facing?
Let me start by expressing my appreciation to the organizers of this good event. I've been with Sabatco team participating in this during the past years. It is evolving. It is increasing in depth and content. And I am pleased to see this conference amalgamating the leadership of the railway industry. With regard to your question, Frederick, Sabatco is a young company. It's about 13 years old. And it evolved through the years to be the first and probably the only Saudi Arabian company that is dedicated to railway maintenance work. There are many challenges that we have faced, but if I summarize the current obstacles that we have been facing, it is actually not financing or technical. From the financing side, as me and as an investor and my partners, Mohammed Al-Zamil and Abdurrahman Al-Thaniyan, we invested a lot of money in this company, exceeding over 120 million. From also the technical side, we are able to bring in the expertise, global expertise, mix them with the local expertise, and create a workforce that is able to deliver quality and safe work to our clients. The real obstacles that we see as a private investor in the railway maintenance industry comes in actually two folds. The first one is what Sultan just alluded to, which is actual and genuine implementation of local content regulations in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. This is critical, and the implementation of regulations, if it's not done with the core interest of the implementing party, there are many ways where we can miss a lot of value from the local content and its intended purposes by Vision 2030 and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Another side of the coin is actually the interest of the project owners to really develop their local content. We see a flux in both sides, in both the implementation of the regulation and in both of the interest and seriousness of the implementing organizations and asset owners. It depends on the organization, it depends on the leadership, it depends on the content of the work. But I can give great examples like the Haddidiya and like Neom, where they have involved us, even though we are a small company, involved it in the core work that we do, and they encourage us to go in consortiums with others. So in summary, answering your question, Frederick, it is not about financing and it's not about getting technical expertise. It is about two sides of one coin, which is rigorous implementation of local content development, local content program at all levels, and at the same time, creating genuine interest and serious implementation within the project owners.
Thank you. Based on your experience, where do you see the biggest opportunity to localize, let's say, let's dream, until 100% of local content? Knowing that, you know, today we are around 20-30% of local content. So where do you see any activities based on your experience?
Sorry, give me a question again. Your question again, please.
Yes. Can you hear me now better? There's a kind of echo on our side.
I am having difficulty hearing you, actually.
Where do you see 100% of local content opportunity?
100%?
Yes.
Yeah, in Sabatco, through the years and experience that we have collected, and from my experience with over 25 years in the industry, two different industries, transport and mining, and now as an investor in the exceptional company, Sabatco, we don't believe that it is about the percentage. We believe it is about the content of the job. I can achieve 100%, but with non-sustainable job, no content. But what we strive for is to develop a content job, a quality job, and sustainable jobs for the Saudi people who are interested in working in the railway industry. So personally and at the organization level with the leadership of Sabatco, we think that we should be focusing on training people to be a welder, to be inspectors, and to be railway workers, not focusing on the percentage and 100%. And personally, I don't think this should be our target as a nation. We shouldn't be targeting for 10 or 20 or 100%. We should be targeting for quality jobs that are sustainable and bring in value to the participating organization and the recruiting organizations.
Thank you. Dr. Abdel Jabbar from RATP Dev. One key question. You know, we can't really talk about local content without talking about local talent. And for the Saudis, by the way, who are part of this audience, you have the choice of the jobs. So how do you retain your top talent at RATP Dev?
Thank you. Good afternoon, all. First of all, I would like to start by making a general statement with a lot of probably the expert in the field knows about the specificity of our industry. Our industry is less and less, unfortunately, attractive. If you go to ask now my kids what you want to do, you know, even YouTube or Instagrammer, I don't think anyone would tell you I want to be a rail expert or a bus operation manager and so on. So the industry itself, and this is around the globe, maybe in Saudi Arabia is slightly different because it is quite new, so there is a vibe around it. But anywhere else in the mature country in transportation, wherever we go. So RATP is an international operation and for different urban and suburban type of transportation. And when you go to all our subsidiaries, our goal is to attract talent. Basically, we really believe and we share the value of Sabatco to sustain any business, particularly for international company like ours, is to have local roots. And you just can't have local roots without really sustaining local jobs and promoting and prioritizing local talents. So for us, people are first, and this is how we can retain our talent. We put people, we promote them, we define for them career paths. Let me give you just some numbers. Just the last year, as you know, we launched the Riyadh Metro project, the Line 1 and 2, with the collaboration of RCRC. We hired more than 3,000 people. And out of these 3,000 people, we have more than 70% out of them are Saudi. Our contractual obligation or the regulation do not impose on us to reach such level of local content. However, we are purposely doing it in order, as I said, to sustain our position in Saudi Arabia, because we consider that Saudi Arabia for us is a key market. But the jobs that how we are doing it, we are training people, we are taking fresh graduates from schools, we are converting some of the professionals. In the metro, I said we have 70% of local talent, but for example, if we look to one of the projects what we have in Al-Ola, which is we are running, I think, the first electrical bus fleet in Saudi Arabia. We have more than 95% level of Saudization. We take our talents, we train them either locally on the job itself. So we have a lot of, a very sustainable program and comprehensive program of local and fresh graduate, but as well we can send them to our mother company in Paris and to learn on the job and making different training sessions. This is how we are doing it in how we try to retain ourselves. And honestly, every week, I have just Tarfa, who's our HR director, a young leader, female Saudi leader. Every week I check what is our retention rate in one of our most, our biggest project in Saudi, and the numbers, they speak by themselves. Thank you.
I see few women in the room. The rail industry has never been very attractive for women. So I would like to know, how do you promote the contribution of women in your organization? How do you recruit more women? And generally speaking, it's not just rail, it's manufacturing all over the world.
Indeed, attracting females and females' talents to our industry is by itself is a challenge. However, in our company, it's a value. And we set the tone from the top. If you look our leadership team, our ex-com, 35% of our ex-com in Paris, they are female. And we have a very targeted approach toward the employee attracting female. In Saudi Arabia, we are really proud to achieve a level of 36% of diversity, even beyond the vision 2030, which has a target of 30%. And I can assure you that the females in Saudi, they are not just entry level. They don't have only entry level jobs. We have them across all the organization, not only in support function like HR or others. We have a lot of Saudi females in finance. We have them also on the technical side, what we call internally the CMMS, for example, which is basically IT. We have a lot of operations agent or operation managers at OCC, which are female, and we are really proud, and we want, ideally we achieve, the society is 50-50% basically, yeah? And this is what we target, and this is what we want. So we want, when we recruit, we always give priority. Honestly, we look to these numbers also. There is also the competence, which is important, and the skills, but also we take into account the diversity, and we select our candidate taking into account these considerations.
Perfect. Saudization is a key topic. So can you tell us a little bit more about your Saudization roadmap? for the next 5 years, and how does this look like?
So as I said, and as engineer Khalid or Sultan, they said, local content is important for the kingdom, but also for us as an international business to sustain our presence in any country. Let's go outside of Saudi Arabia. Let's go, for example, to Morocco, where we are running a major, we are running all the tramway network in Morocco, as well as the BRT in Casablanca. 99% of our staff are locals. Obviously, you know, we've been there for more than 10 years in Morocco, and initially we have to bring our expertise to transfer the know-how, and very slowly, you know, giving the leadership position to a local. And this is honestly what we are targeting even in Saudi Arabia. Today, I said in certain projects we are 95%. I have my client RCU, the Royal Commission of Al-Ola. They want us even to push it to 99 and even 100%. In Camco for the metro, we are doing the same. Even on the bus side, with our colleagues from Sabtco, they're pushing for the same direction. And the target is obviously to have as much as possible as sustainable jobs for Saudi talents.
Thank you, Dr. Abdel Jabbar. Now, Your Excellency, Mr. Mohamed, you know, you may not know, but I spent 17 years in Singapore, and there's a very strong link between the government and the private sector. And what they do is the government is defining the framework, pushing for the private sector to develop themselves based on that. So I would like to understand, in Saudi Arabia, what are those ties between the government and the private sector, and how you can support to develop the local content?
Thank you very much, Frederick. First of all, good afternoon for everyone, ladies and gentlemen. I think there is a strong collaboration between the government and the private sector. Let me say we are very lucky in this country. We have a great leader and a wise vision who just mentioned the rail industry is not common with women. But let me just say one fact. Our Haramain train is driven by a woman, and our metro in Riyadh, there is a woman working. It's an auto-driven, but the woman monitor from offices. So this great leadership give us both as a nation, men and women, to participate in this great vision. Secondly, I'm representing Saudi Contractor Authority. When we speak about the relation between the government and the private sector, it's very important. Also, back again, we have a very slim government now. We have a vision. When we speak about local content, and we speak about also industry, when we speak about industry and the strategy of transport and the logistic, both are in parallel way to increase the local content, and this will be executed by, inshallah, Saudi contractor. I'm just here saying that standardized pre-qualification is important, improving the procurement process, and also a transparent and a balanced contractual condition between both the owner of the project and contractor to share the risk and to make those projects to be happen in the right time with the right quality. Of course, rail sector is a unique sector. There are some complexity and some advanced working from civil to other part engineering and technician. So here I think we need both the international knowledge and international knowledge transfer with the local also contractor to have their local access to the market plus their workforce. So I believe there will be a strong, inshallah, potential for international big player and for local big player. We've seen in the first ministerial panel from Jordan, from Syria and from Bahrain. Thanks God, we are in Saudi Arabia, as in the region, in the Middle East, we have the first mover advantage, I think. We have Haramain train, we have train from Riyadh to Dammam that's established by his by the king, the founder, King Abdul Aziz rahimahullah, many years ago, and we have now Riyadh Metro. So we have also the land bridge connecting the central area with the western area. So I think we have a big rail sector in Saudi. I'm here just calling international big player in this sector to have a partnership with a local contractor, because to have a sustainable industry, this rail industry need maintenance for decades. It's not just we build something and just we leave it. We need maintenance, we need operation, and to this to be sustainable, we need to have the international expertise, the international knowledge, combined with the local also workforce, and we upskill also our talent. Dr. Abdul Jabbar also mentioned another important thing, it's the human skills. Also in Saudi Contractor Authority, also we are uplifting also the workforce skills of contractor. I don't want to speak too much, Frederick, so to miss other question.
Thanks a lot for your explanation. You know, Your Excellency, one of the most bottlenecks, I would say, or challenges that we are facing here is the skill set. They are great universities, great schools, but at the same time, when you have emerging sectors like the railway, you know, I came in Saudi last October, the metro was not open. So we are talking about new industries starting from scratch in the kingdom. So how do you make sure that the skill sets, especially for the contractors side, are up to date and aligned with those new sectors?
Of course, as I mentioned, the rail sector is a unique sector, but thanks God, SAR, they have their own polytechnic college, which is developing Saudi skills men and women to participate in this main sector. Also in SCA, we have different initiatives. One of those initiatives are we have our e-learning platform. Also, we have a good collaboration with SAR, and I think this is a sectoral good collaboration because SAR is a very unique just in the rail sector. As we are in the contractor industry, we are looking to different category of projects. But this unique sectors, I think, need more focus to develop and upskills those human needed to participate in this sector. So as I said, there we are cooperating with SAR, plus we are also developing some programs to suit this sector, and hopefully there are a lot of avenues to explore and to increase to make this sector more local contact from Saudi Department in this sector.
Thank you. There's a burning question for me on the construction sector. You may not all know it's a key strategic sector for the kingdom. And I mentioned at the beginning that we were working with Alat on the smart building division. So for you, can you remind us how important the construction sector is for Saudi?
Of course, construction sector is very, very important to the kingdom and to the Kingdom Vision 2030. As we know, construction is the execution arm for Vision 2030 projects. So we are having a very support from the different ministries and ministries bodies to improve and to upskill this sector and to help facilitate and execute those projects. I think we have the government vision and we have also the private sector efficiency. If we combine those two things, I think we will have, inshallah, a great future because, as I said, there is a lot of opportunity in this sector. And let me just say, for example, every kilometer of rail built will open an opportunity for the wide economic of Saudi Arabia. So it's not just only rail and construction. If we see it in the holistic picture, it's an engine to move our economy toward to get the target where Vision 2030 is wanna be reached.
Thank you, Your Excellency. We are overstay, so we need to close this discussion. Thanks a lot for your contribution to all of you for this very interesting topic on local content in Saudi Arabia for the railway sector. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, everybody. That's some really promising themes coming out there on localization of the talent pool here in Saudi Arabia. So next up, then, we have an interview with the Acting Deputy of the Transport General Authority of Saudi Arabia. So I'd like you to join me in welcoming them upon the stage. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Meto Trajkovski from BCG. And I would like to welcome our guest today, Mr. Badr Al-Hujailan. He's the VP of Railways in the Transport General Authority, which is the entity that is the policymaker and regulator of the railway sector in Saudi Arabia. Badr, welcome. It's a pleasure to see you again and an honor to be on stage with you today to explore the current status and the future outlook of the sector in the kingdom. Perhaps we can start and you can share your reflections on the current situation of the sector in the kingdom and why you think it's important for the sector to expand.
Thank you, me too. And it's my pleasure also to be here today, and I'd like to congratulate the organizers for this event, for this successful event 2 years in a row. And this year's event comes as we celebrate the 74th anniversary of the inauguration of the first railway in the kingdom that linked Riyadh to Dammam. And back then, there was a need for the oil industry to transport heavy drilling equipment. So the driver for the railway was to enable the oil industry, and it was recognized early on, right from the outset, from our leadership. It was also to help the logistics from the port to Riyadh. Now, since then, the railway network has developed 10 times, serving even more economic sectors, such as the mining and petrochemicals. And if you think about it, oil, mining, petrochemicals are nothing but the main sectors for the domestic economy of the kingdom. And of course, the network now links more ports, being commercial, industrial, or even dry ports, and we are passing through a number of industrial and logistic zones. This is for the freight. For the passenger, the mainline railways become lifestyle for the passenger today. We've seen this in the north, in the east, and even in the high-speed project, where passengers are relying heavily on the railways to commute to their businesses, universities, and even for leisure or shopping mall. And in particular, we see this in the high-speed projects where the tourists are visiting either Mecca or Medina to perform prayers or rituals and to go back to their base accommodation the same day. So it kind of enhanced the quality of life in these areas. In urban railways, we all noticed the impact that Riyadh Metro has made when it started last year. In fact, some studies showed that the roads that are parallel to the corridors where we have metro, the congestion there dropped by 15%. So all in all, because of the positive impact of the railways in economy and society, we should continue to expand in railways.
Thank you for those reflections on the history and the current state. What can you tell us about the outlook? How is the sector going to develop in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, to me, because I'm working in the sector, the outlook is optimistic for more than one reason. If you look at the growth percentage, it's exponential. Look at Riyadh Metro, for instance. Only after 9 months or 10 months of operation, we hit the occupancy rate that will trigger the capacity expansion usually in public transport. That's why we see projects like Line 2 expansion, Line 7, Giddi high-speed project, and so on. Same goes with Mecca Metro. When they notice this growth in the BRT, they are thinking about the Mecca Metro project now. For the mainline railways, we've seen 10% growth in the first 9 months of 2025 and compared with the same period last year in both passenger and freight. In response to that, we at the Transport General Authority, in cooperation with the Ministry and other ecosystem, developed initiatives within the National Transport and Logistics Services to respond to this demand, to respond to this growth by enhancing the capacity, whether through infrastructure upgrade or supplementing the existing fleet for passenger and freight. This is, of course, beside the giga projects such as the Land Bridge and the VGCC, therefore linking more ports and more logistic areas. And this will help us to achieve the domestic strategic targets for transport and even beyond. For GCC, for instance, when we link with the GCC members, we will also achieve the strategic objective of the regional connectivity and even the international strategic objectives such as the IMEC initiative. So this, all in all, the growth, the strategic direction, and also the direction in the new projects. Look at NEOM and Al-Ula, for instance. They are basing their mobility around railways. NEOM Trojena project, for instance, they will utilize the funicular railway technology to take passengers to the Olympic Village, which will host the Asian Winter Games. And in there, the funicular tunnel, by the way, will be the world's steepest tunnel that will be built using TBM machine. In Al-Ula, for instance, they are basing their mobility strategy around a tramway that will be the world's longest catenary-free, third rail-free, battery-powered system that will take the visitors of the city around the UNESCO heritage sites and therefore offering more additional experience for them. So we are again optimistic because it will serve even further more economic sectors such as sports, culture, tourism, thereby achieving their strategic objectives beyond achieving the transport strategic objectives.
Thank you, Badr. The agenda seems massive, and it will be, I think, a daunting challenge to fund all of this. I remember in the ministerial panel earlier today, His Excellency the Minister mentioned that about half of the funding from the National Transport and Logistics Strategy is allocated to the railway sector. Will that be sufficient, or will we need to tap into other sources of funding, and how are you thinking about that?
Of course, the more the better, but as His Excellency mentioned this morning, the majority of the NTLS budget is allocated to the railway because they are capital intense and they are not necessarily profitable in some of the projects. Therefore, the government has to step in. However, there are also requirements for the private sector and other entities to participate in the development of these projects. So how can we address this challenge? We address it by different levels. First, we urge railways, existing railways, to activate the profit-making business units so that they offset the losses they have, and perhaps they can make some additional fund to support in funding the projects. In the regulations, we have allowed for the investors to run services on the national railway, and of course in the railway, as well as building facility. A good example of this would be the Dream of the Desert, the luxurious service that will be launched next year, and the Zulfi passenger station that will be built by the private sector. On another side of the regulation for the fares, we are trying to be flexible about the fares for the passenger, whereby offering dynamic model for the railways, but in the same time making sure that it's still affordable by passengers. And we have limited intervention in the freight tariffs because we want the market condition to set them, and we try to limit our intervention in the freight. So we hope with all these, let's say, initiatives in the regulation that we could address the challenge. When it comes to the project finance, as mentioned by His Excellency, we are studying the market, let's say, risk, appetite, even the delivery segmentation, so that we can design the project packaging and it suits the industry. We do this, of course, in consultation with the international funding entities and local funding entities, such as the commercial banks, Exim banks, and asset managers. We hope with all these efforts that we address the funding challenge and proceed to achieve our strategic objectives.
Thank you, Badr. And I think we have maybe time for one more question. You are here today, of course, representing the TGA, who is the regulator for the sector. So we'd be keen to hear from you, what are the main regulatory efforts that you are undertaking to stimulate, promote, and modernize the railway sector?
Well, luckily in the Kingdom, we have a mature governance for railways, thanks to the recent reforms to separate ownership from regulation from operation. For TGA, we are following an agile approach when it comes to developing the regulation. So we continuously develop the regulations to cope with the industry need, as well as we do this in consultation with the railways because we want to make sure that they are implementable. We also factor in the feedback that we receive from passengers and freight clients through our initiative, Qiyas initiative, and some comments are quite useful for when we develop the regulations. For the digital transformation side and to help the railway comply with the law, we have developed a railway service platform that help optimizing the data reporting for the TGA. For instance, it helped optimizing the reporting for the incident because reporting an incident is a requirement by a number of government entities beyond the TGA, such as the National Safety Transport Center. So by reporting through that platform, in one go, they will comply with all these entities' requirements. Finally, we also consult with, we compare our, let's say, regulations with international benchmarks, and we found them to be comparable to them. And regionally, and as a testimony for this, let's say, comparison and excellence, the GCC and Arab League organizations are using the Kingdom legislative framework as a reference for them, for the member countries to develop their own legislatives.
Very good. Thank you, Badr. It seems there are strong tailwinds blowing in the sail of the Saudi railway sector. It was great to hear from you about the plans. It's also great to hear that the government and the regulator is behind the sector. So thank you for your contributions, and thank you to the audience as well.
Thank you, Mr.
Outlook on the KSA rail system in the future. With our first few sessions having covered strategy and talent, we now move to the central challenge, project delivery. The number of billion-dollar projects underway in the region is immense, and they require world-class management and execution. So this CEO panel brings together leaders responsible for industrial development, logistics, and major infrastructure in the region. They will share the strategies, challenges, and solutions for delivering these truly transformative mega projects on time and on budget. So please help me to welcome our moderator and our esteemed panelists to the stage.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this very important panel. It's up on the screen, the title, so I will avoid repeating it. We heard it also before. It is a great honor for me to be here today to moderate this session. My name is Francesco Dionori. I'm Chief of Transport Networks and Logistics Section at the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe. And this is really something that I very much have been looking forward to moderating, to really hear the various views. I would just like to now ask our speakers to join us up here on stage. First of all, His Excellency Engineer Khalil Ibrahim bin Salama, Deputy Minister of Industry and Mineral Resources for Industrial Affairs. Excellency, thank you very much. Welcome. Now I would like to ask His Excellency Dr. Rumai bin Mohammed Al-Rumai, Deputy Minister of Transport and Logistics Services, Acting President, Transport General Authority. Thank you very much. Welcome. I would also ask His Excellency Engineer Khalid Mohammed Al Salem, President of the Royal Commission for Jubail and Yambu. Thank you very much. Welcome. And also His Excellency Engineer Wagdi Radwan, Deputy Minister of Arab Republic of Egypt. Thank you very much. Welcome. So let's dive straight into this discussion today. I'll turn my seat around so I can see you all better. So the session today will really explore the strategic planning, and operational realities behind developing large-scale railway and metro projects. It will bring together leaders, it does bring together leaders and responsible key decision makers really for the industry and for the sector as a whole, focusing on the rail networks of Saudi Arabia and also the UAE and Egypt, of course, as well as leading experts on rail safety. I look forward very much to the discussion on integrating these broader rail national economic visions, the challenges of the freight sector, and really your views on developing going forward for the railways and for the sector as a whole. So if we can dive straight in, and I would ask His Excellency Engineer Khalil bin Ibrahim bin Salma the first question, if I may. How is the Ministry actively ensuring the Saudi-based manufacturers and local content suppliers can meet the high standards for material needed in these multi-billion-dollar rail projects? Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for arranging this wonderful event. I think the question is more than what the Ministry will do for the mega project on the way. It's also important to share that the relationship between the industry and industrialization plan with the rail is more than just a manufacturing and a mean of supply. It is more or less an integrated business model that to reach our aspiration for the industrial strategy, this becomes the rail system, the rail network becomes an essential part of the success. If we take it in different categories, we have vast major cities with industrial clusters. Each one of them house either a raw material or an intermediate product or a finished product that has to be transported between different cities, a raw material transferred to a manufacturing facility, product transported to a port. So this integrated economics is essential to the success of industry. So this is one side. The other important element is that the rail system provides by itself an industrialization opportunity, either by products designed for the rail. For example, when we talk about the wheels, the locomotives, or the transport mechanisms, mechatronics, electronics, signaling system. So there are specific products, technologies, and there are more important adjacent technologies that also deliver to multiple rail plus aviation once we develop the capabilities. As an example of that, when we talk about materials that goes into the rail, we are investing now very heavily into specialty metals that serves multiple platforms. That could be the aerospace sector, that could be the rail systems, also going back to the raw material for the metals themselves, that would be specialty steel, or in the case of chemicals and rubbers, most of the internals of any rail system comes from basically plastics and rubbers. With the same capability that we are investing and building, it will be used also for the auto industry, the aviation industry, and multiple mobility solutions. So in a nutshell, that industrialization by itself, it is our main focus to create those clusters specific for the products required by the rail system. Also, the adjacency of these products that will be created in different clusters, that would be plastic, rubber, metallic, electronic, will serve multiple industries.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that response. I think it was very clear and detailed. Excellency, Dr. Rumai bin Mohammed Al Rumai, I would like to ask a related question, let's say. How is the Transport General Authority working with the private sector and educational institutions to ensure a steady pipeline of specialized Saudi talent for the long-term operation and maintenance of these brand new rail and metro systems and projects?
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رحب فيكم جميعا و speak in Arabic just for a minute and then I switch to English. رحب فيكم وأود أن أشكر شركة سار على تنظيم هذا المؤتمر النوعي في مجال الخطوط الحديدية. طبعا شهادتي مجروحة أنا بالخطوط الحديدية لأني مرتبط فيها من تقريبا 20 سنة. Question goes like this, and I'm sorry, maybe we are on the stage, we can't hear very well. I hope you can hear in the audience. You can hear me, right? Good. Okay. Question is, what are we doing regarding Saudization, local content? I think that's in summary. As you all know that railway projects are very operational and they stays for decades. Therefore, the only way to for this project to become sustainable is if you develop local talent. And that's the situation all over the world. You know, as mentioned in the ministerial session, the railway industry started 200 years ago. So what have we done in Saudi? Railway is not new in Saudi. It's the only project that we had started 70 plus years ago, which is Dammam Hafuf Riyadh. And in that project, an entity, Saudi Railway Organization, was handling the project, and it was, Saudized, training was there. However, after the expansion in railway in the last decade, that made us focus more on developing local content and local talent with proper operating language. So we have decided that the operating language will be English because the systems are from different countries. So we needed to decide which operating language. It was Arabic, and then we switched to English. Therefore, we built an institution called Saudi Railway Polytechnique in Qasim, and we started technical training with all disciplines, train driving, rolling stock, signaling, civil and track maintenance, and we continue to provide this project with Saudis. And I must say that probably I am biased because I am the chairman of the board of that institute, but the results speak for themselves. Safety level is very high. The quality of the operation is high, be it in the high-speed line or in the conventional lines or in the metro, the new metro projects. So we'll continue to do that. As you most of you know, that we are very proud of Saudi ladies train drivers in the high-speed line, the Mecca-Medina. This is as far as the Saudization and the local talent. For sustainability, we need to focus on local content as well, which we are working with the Ministry of Industry, my friend, His Excellency Engineer Khalil, and the ministry is to make sure we localize. First spare parts, then manufacturing some of the components up until we manufacture the whole train sets, and of course all the signaling, the rail, the sleepers, and what have you. So we need to work in Saudization, local content, and that's the Transport General Authority is doing as the regulator, and that's what the Transport and Logistics Strategies, which mentioned by His Excellency the Minister earlier this morning, is focusing on. I hope I answered your question. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay, now we went the other way that it's too loud. But at least now you can hear me and you can understand me. Things have improved a lot. Thank you again. Sorry for that very useful intervention. If I may, I'd like to pass the floor now to His Excellency Engineer Khalid Mohammed Al Salem and ask you how is the Royal Commission for Jubail and Hamburg working to integrate rail infrastructure as a foundational element for new industrial city development and logistics hubs? Thank you.
Network and it kept